Let's talk about this now with Andrij Dobriansky from the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. Welcome back. As always, you've probably heard Geraldo and I discussing some of this, which at the end of the day is, in Geraldo's estimation, a lot of people's estimations, maybe Zelenskyy needs the Europeans more than ever because Trump's about to get out, or at least to, pull back.
We did see something in that security strategy that came out on Friday, kind of like a late Friday dump in terms of news. However, Pete Hegseth kind of spoke about that at the Reagan Security Forum as well. So even though it wasn't highly publicized, Pete Hegseth kind of re-emphasized everything that was in that document. But here we are 72 hours later. We have a national defense authorization coming out of Congress that very much reminds me about what Congress did after President Obama, as President Trump said today, only wanted to send blankets. We have so many things in there about keeping troops in Europe, about funding Ukraine, that we have two opposing viewpoints.
Well, the Congress wants to do more than than the administration, is your point. And they even want to spend more money in that Defense Authorization Act than the administration had asked for overall on defense. Are you worried, though, about what this, Trump pulling back, if that's indeed what is going on here?
I think we're hearing a lot of things from Trump. We heard also from his son at the Doha conference.
Yes.
But in the end, we're hearing a lot of vacillating by Trump, especially the same kind of talking points. He was talking with the farmers in the cabinet room today, and he said that the same talking points he does all over again, which is soldiers are dying, we need to keep peace, etc. And he also said that President Zelenskyy this weekend, that he hadn't read the peace deal.
Right.
But I was listening to a Ukrainian reporter interviewing him, and President Zelenskyy was going point by point, even as much as talking about that the peace deal now includes a point about returning Ukrainian children in it. So it seems like President Zelensky's actually read it a little bit more than President Trump's talking.
Yeah, it was pretty detailed. I know he did an interview with Bloomberg. I read that this morning, where he was pretty detailed and, talking about Donbass and other things in terms of land. Here's more from Zelenskyy in London and what he had to say. Take a listen.
I think unity between Europe and Ukraine, and also unity between Europe, Ukraine, and the United States. There are some things which we can't manage without Americans, things which we can't manage without Europe, and that's why we need to make some important decisions.
So his idea that Europe could kind of fill some gap if the United States pulls back.
Well, it's definitely doing that with money. And now the position that Donald Trump is in is, do I get rid of this money that's coming in? He loves talking about how much tariffs bring in, how much international investment is. This is a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars that Europe is committed to buying weapons for Ukraine. Is that something that he thinks America will be better off without that money coming in? So if this was last year, if this was the beginning of the year where Donald Trump was accosting President Zelenskyy in the White House, that was when America was still sending weapons gratis from the United States budget. This is not the world that Donald Trump is in right now. Now we have Europe in the fight, and most importantly, there was a Russian advisor to Putin who's saying the war is with Europe. It's not just with Ukraine.
But is that one Ukraine can win, with Europe as the main backer and not the United States?
The issue is that every time Russia goes another meter, another kilometer into Ukraine, that's another part that they're going further than they could. So so long as Russia's going further and Ukraine keeps hitting deeper, it's a matter of time. Who's going to hit the other's back line first? And right now, Ukraine has more friends than Russia has.
Okay, so on the talks part of it and the land part of it, that's what Zelenskyy was getting at in that interview that I referenced a few minutes ago. He talked
about the fact that what he's always talked about: the land is dictated by the Constitution. It's going to be the people of Ukraine that dictate what land is ceded or not.
So we are where we've always been.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that's why the plan goes from 28 down to 20 or 19 points. That's disputed what's on the table right now. I think part of that has to do with security guarantees, and nothing is going to go further with Ukraine until they know exactly who's guaranteeing what, because we've been there in 2015. We've been there where Ukraine gave up the nuclear weapons. We don't want history to repeat itself.
Andrij Dobriansky, as always, thank you.
Absolutely.
Talking to us about Ukraine.